present here. I'm Devesh Gandhi, pursuing my Bachelor's in Visual Communication Design from HYD Gandhinagar. I would like to welcome you all to Ask Me Anything with Fabin Rasheed. This event is organized by ADI Hyderabad. So I would first like to begin with introducing Mr. Rashid. So Mr. Fabin is an artist, designer, innovator, and technologist working in the intersection of creativity and technology. He is currently working at Adobe as a product innovator. He holds a master's degree in design from IIT Hyderabad. His work revolves around either creating tools for creativity or using technology to augment creativity and make art. Interestingly enough, his work spans a wide variety of technology like artificial intelligence, AR, VR, gestures, voice generative arts, and a lot more. His works have been featured in many international venues like Florence Biennale at Florence, Italy, Arts Electronica, Electronica, Global Gallery, Neo's IPS Creativity Gallery Vancouver, Canada, and Contemporary and Digital Art Fair at CADF, at Codame Art Tech Festival and Cobalt Art Gallery, Rework AI Summit at San Francisco, USA, and a lot more. He also has more than 6 patents and multiple publications in creativity and technology. His works have been featured in national and international media like Mashable, Popular Science, Slash Gear, BuzzFeed, India Express, Business Standard, Your Story, and many more. In early 2021, he was selected as one of the top 10 global finalists for Aurea Awards, honoring excellence in VR and AR entertainment. This was about Mr. Fabin. And now I would request Mr. Fabin to share his thoughts.
Hey, Devesh, I think I missed the last part of your conversation. Did you hand it over to me? I just didn't get that part. Shall I continue?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was telling about his recognitions, and also as he was also selected as one of the 10 finalists at Aurea Awards, honoring which honors excellence in AR and VR entertainment. So that was
Oh,
about what I think what might have got missed.
all right. All right. Thank you, Devesh. Thank you so much for the intro, and thank you for inviting me for this conversation. I really don't want this to be a one-way conversation with the folks present here. I am just like one of you who has been through the journey of studying design and reaching at this place. So I would really appreciate if you be open to asking questions, interacting with me, and asking about my own experience. I see one of my amazing friends and batchmate has also joined, and hey, Pranay. Either way, please feel free to stop me anytime and ask any questions you want. I'll start off by sharing some things about creativity and technology, and I'll also talk about some of my works so far so that you get an idea of what exactly I am doing. To talk about creativity and technology, it's rather really simple. It's creativity mixed with technology. You use technology to make creative expressions like art, design, etc. Or you could always look the other way around, where you use technology to enhance creativity and technology to create new tools with for creative expression. So both ways you can look at it. And I started off as as an electronics engineer who went into programming, and then I reached all the way into design. I was probably the first batch at IIT Hyderabad, and since then it has been an amazing journey. I joined some innovation labs, and I was able to create some creations based on some of my skill sets, which were largely on creating ideas and trying to bring them into a format which is consumable. So that is probably where I started with, eventually moving on to my position at Adobe, where I was initially started off as a designer for Photoshop. And beyond that, I went into designing for other softwares of Adobe, including Rush and Story, etc. And finally went into becoming part of the design lab in India, which is largely an innovation lab. and creating innovations based on that. I'll come to that later. Over and all, this is an amalgamation of where, I as a designer or an artist or a creative try to mix it with all these, fancy little terms like artificial intelligence and AI. We are just trying to bring out what we can with all these things. I'll probably start off sharing some of my works so that you understand the journey. And then again, as I mentioned before, please feel free to stop me anytime and ask any questions. I do have some interactive stuff for you so that you can also try it out and experience it. But yeah, I'll start off by sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Devesh, could you confirm?
Yes, it is.
Yes, your screen
All
is
right.
visible.
Thank you. All right. So one of my favorite projects and one of my early projects in creative technology and creative expressions using technology was when I was working at Adobe, at least during my first stint at Adobe, where I was exploring how digital brushes could be used to create the future of could be used to create new creative expressions. We use brushes using Photoshop and Illustrator and all those things, and we create all these amazing digital illustration. But I thought, can we extend that beyond the paradigm that we have seen so far? And among one of my creations at Adobe was something called the animated brushes. So this animated brushes was a project which was based on creating brushes using, creating animations using just brushes. You draw on the canvas and an animation is created just like that. And luckily enough, I was able to present this at the main stage of Adobe Max 2018. I'll give you a quick snippet of the video here. Just tell me if you can hear the audio.
No, the audio is no, the
Sorry?
audio is not
Not
audible.
audible.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just give a walkthrough of it and I'll post the link. You can check it out later. So essentially, what happens is if you have to create animations right now, say in Illustrator or in animating software like Adobe Animator or anything like that, you have to draw it frame by frame and animate it. So this is a very time-consuming process, and that is where the solution which I proposed came into play. And it's essentially where you can take one of these brushes here and just draw on the canvas. And as you start drawing itself, you'll see it's all animated. You don't necessarily have to, specifically move things frame by frame or anything like that. And there are a couple more extensions to that where you can vary the rain density, the rain sound, etc. You can always connect it to external data like the live weather of the location. So essentially your illustration changes based on what location you are in. So those kind of things. I don't want to go into the detail of it, but let me just share the link with you so that you can check it out whenever you feel when you can. This is where oops, I think I sent it to, all right. All right. But post that, I started getting interested in artificial intelligence, and I started using my skills as a technologist to create more brushes using artificial intelligence technologies. So one of the technologies I use was something called a pix-to-pix network, which essentially translate one kind of a texture to another. So this is where what I did was I gathered a lot of images of lava, which is like volcano lava, and I translated it into the strokes created from something like Adobe Fresco or Adobe Photoshop or something like that. So as you can see here, as I draw it, you can see how it is translated into the texture of lava on the left side. This I extended quite a bit with some more artworks. And beyond that, I used it in augmented reality. So essentially, I'm drawing on paper, and when I switch on this AR mode, it actually switches into this whole lava-like effect. Of course, it is low resolution given the model's capability and everything, but yeah. I'm bad at painting, so don't judge me by that anyway. But yeah, so that was another one. Beyond that, I started exploring how this brushes could be, used to paint more textures. Like, if you're drawing clothes directly, can we have the 3D aspect of it, the shadows and everything generated on the go? So you're just drawing a patch painting on the right side, and the 3D textures and everything is generated on the fly on the left side. And then I explored a couple more brushes like product drawing and character action brush. This is where you draw just stick figures, and the animated or the actual 3D model is generated on the left side. So you just all you have to do is just draw stick figures in whichever poses you want. Could also probably animate your stick figures, and that could also generate some of those animations on the character. Again, these were very early stage explorations, and it was very raw at that time, and it's low resolution. I kind of made a composition with all the brushes I created. I'm sure all of you know about 36 days of type, and I kind of used. And there is a derivative of that in India, 47 days of Devanagari type. I kind of fetched all the images of 47 days of Devanagari type and created a data set based on that. And using the extract of that, I created this brush, which can actually draw this kind of texture when you actually paint with it. So you can see how there's this watercolory yet old kind of an effect to it. So as you draw it, and I kind of made a set based on that. You can see the details here. I went on to even drawing that, using that to create line drawings, which I found in the internet. And it's not exactly watercolory. It's this texture, totally different. It's like patches and those kind of things. This was one of my most popular videos till date, and this was using Gorgan, which was a model by NVIDIA. So this is essentially I'm drawing the patch painting on the left side with my brush, and it's translated into a real drawing on the right side. So this suddenly blew up, and people had started conversing around how AI could take over creativity, AI could replace jobs, anything and everything from that to how this is one amazing innovation and all those things. But the essential point is that this particular video could trigger such a debate, and I had conversations with a lot of folks on how this could be a possible creative expression, and there could be more things to discover in this journey. And beyond that, I kind of created my own tool using Gogan to paint. So you can see all these abstract figures which I created with it. And I also created a couple of videos. So this was a tool. At that time, we didn't have anything for iPad. So I created something for iPad where, Gogan is essentially sorry, let me just switch off the sound. Gogan is essentially where you can translate these patch paintings into realistic interpretations. So I made a iPad tool with it, and then I started creating art with it. And that went on for quite some time. And let me just move on. I also tried out creating the before and aftermath of climate change based on this Gogan algorithm. I essentially replaced rocks with, water with sand in the text, and it essentially changed the image based on that. So you can see how different aftermaths of climate change could be visualized using this particular thing. Finally, in this series, I made something for data visualization, which is largely you can change an image based on a couple of sliders, not exactly a illustration, but it's a realistic, semi-realistic or mostly realistic image based on sliders. So if you example, you can change the water content, you can change the tree color, the snow, and more. All right, I think I'll move on to some interactive stuff so that you also get to play with some things. So I'll talk about this work which I did called Regalia. So Regalia is essentially a mandala drawing application, and it was made in such a way, it was created as an NFT. I don't know if all of you know about NFTs. NFT is this, I wouldn't say reason, but it started off as a innovation in blockchain technology where creatives could create something which is authentic and could be collected. In that sense, I created this during that time, and the the interesting thing about Regalia is that each setting of this Regalia drawing tool could be collected by a collector. For example, the brush size or the background or the color palette, all these things could be collected by a collector, and the audience would be drawing on it. So it became a ecosystem of creation where people could all come together to create an artwork. And let me just show this to you so that you can actually play with it. Yeah, please feel free to go into the website and just click and draw. So this is created using a library called processing. I mean, it's a tool called processing, and it has a web extension called P5JS. Both of these are amazing creative coding tools. And the algorithm, although it's very straightforward, it went into, as I said, connecting the collectors with the audience while creating. So if I am drawing with this style right now, a collector who collected the other palette could switch it to a different palette, and I would be drawing in another style. So every time it's a unique creation because the audience and the collector is collaborating in a totally different way every time it is viewed. So yeah, feel free to play with it and enjoy it. And again, stop me anytime. If you have any questions, please ask. And it doesn't have to be questions. You can just shoot anything. You can just discuss about it.
So this one reminds me of the radial brush tool in Adobe Photoshop. So was there
Yeah.
inspiration for this?
No, actually, the inspiration for this was Buddhist mandalas. I mean, mandalas in general, to be honest. And from there, it started creating. I have been working with radial brushes for a long time, and I know how radial brushes work. This technology is, what I wanted to create was something where people don't have to go into the details of creation. They could just draw and something amazing happens. It doesn't have to be that someone who doesn't know to create. I wouldn't say not to create. I would say someone who is new to creating these detailed drawings could just just have some fun with it, and suddenly something amazing comes with it. Yeah. So that was the intent. Yes, it really derives from the radial brush tool if you think about it. Again, it's something where I wanted the whole ecosystem in NFTs to work together. I, as a creator, the audience, the collectors, everybody coming together and creating. All right. Now that you have seen that, let's also try out something again a little more fun and interactive. This is another one of my artwork called Chromology, which is essentially a play of colors. Where do I send that? Yeah. This is again the same thing. You can just draw and have fun with it. All you have to do is just click on the link, open it up. Ah, okay, I don't know. This is okay. All right, all you have to do is just click and drag, and you can see how the color just pours. So it's essentially, again, this kind of inspired from the paintings of Jackson Pollock, or folks who have been painting with splashing colors and those kind of things. This is intended to be pure play, pure fun, rather than creating something. Again, there are different variations of it. This is rather a pour. There are a couple of other variations, like creating splashing cubes or splashing spirals on the screen and those kind of things. So yeah, this was again another NFT. Same thing, the collector and the creative and the audience come into this together ecosystem and play with this work. Yeah, feel free to try it out. All right. Let's also try out something where you all start screaming at your screens. I don't know how this will work since your audio inputs are already connected to Zoom, but let's give it a go anyway. So this artwork is called Voxorium. Let me just describe the artwork before going to the actual thing. So this artwork is called Voxorium. Voxorium is essentially a sound reactive sculpture. And it has 35 variations. So you can see my explorations here. I started experimenting with how sound can influence imagery, basically visualizations. And then I went into creating different types of visualizations from 2D all the way to 3D. I can see some more 2D visualizations here. And then went into pure 3D with cubes. For this I used a library called 3JS. So each of the separate parts of a musical note, have been separated into each of these spheres, and each of them moves in different accordance. Basically, I separated out the frequency band and sent it across to each of these. And then I made something called Sonosium, which is painting with sound. So how do you paint with sound? I don't know if you can try. I think I should have a link for that. But essentially, the way you talk or the way you converse, it paints in this whole charcoal-like expression on the screen. Let me see if it is live so that you can also try it out. So Voxorium is what I was talking about. It's a 3D sculpture. It is in this immersive environment, and it moves according to how I talk. If I keep silent, you will see it doesn't move, and then if you talk, it will move. And each of the frequency bands was separated into different categories of it. Again, let me just send the link to you so that you can also start screaming the screen. Yeah, so in 3JS, I explored quite a bit. Yeah, please try out the demo before I proceed. Yeah. Just have to enable the microphone and then just keep talking to us.
Sir?
Yes.
The version which you are showing us right now with the red dot at the center and the gray. So like,
Yeah.
is that like an actual VR? Like, does that actually require VR? Like, is that kind of?
Yeah. So Yeah, I made a VR port of it. That's why it's showing
Okay.
VR not supported here. You can
Okay,
actually
sir.
view this model in VR and have voice-based interaction to it. But what I discovered is that not many people in the ecosystem had VR headsets at that time.
Ah,
So I wanted
yes,
it
sir.
to be web-based for easy accessibility. I mean, the code or the underlying technology was more or less the same. It was just a matter of a simple port, so I could just switch it back to web.
Okay, sir.
And yeah, thank you for the question. Um, and I so this project, although was supposed to be an interaction with technology, I kind of uh, wanted it to be beyond that. I created 35 variations of it. Now this 35 variations was interesting. What happened was when the pandemic began, I kind of I mean we all got socially isolated and we were almost always locked at homes, and there was a lot of silence around, especially since you don't have a lot of movement outside, no traffic noises or anything like that. There was this overpowering silence, and in during those silence moments, I realized that I am more sensitive to subtle sounds around me, which could be the buzzing of this fridge, or the refrigerator, or the fans noise, or all those kind of noise. So what I did was I recorded these noises, or these subtle sounds, or these musics around me, which I never used to listen to before. And the interesting thing about Voxorium is that you can also download uh, the conversation or the music that you played in the form of the Voxorium sculpture. So it's essentially a memorabilia or recording of your voice in as an image. So you just have to press enter and it will download it. Now you can keep this 3D model and you can exhibit it anywhere. You can share it across and everything like that. You'll also get a MP3 file also, I mean, OGG file also, which is an audio clipping. The point is that I recorded these 35 sounds into these sound sculptures, and these sound sculptures represent these 35 sounds, which I found uniquely around in my environment. And then I kind of made a grid out of that, which can be switched again as an NFT. And this is how I thought the whole becomes the part and the part becomes the whole. So yeah, that's another interactive artwork which I created, Voxorium. I'm talking more on the lines of art rather than more into design, but I could always talk about some of the design projects I've done if you want to. But I think I'll keep a conversation a little more interesting with a little more augmented reality stuff. But yeah, let me talk about it. So last year, I also did this project called Pilgrimage, and this was kind of one of my most important projects of 2020. Pilgrimage essentially started as an exploration towards geolocating some of my artworks. As in, I'll be creating a work, I wanted to be put in one particular location. And augmented reality based geolocalization is kind of the future. So what I did was create 9 3D models, 9 artworks. I used Blender to sculpt them. And let me just go to the creation process first. Yeah, I started with sketches, of course, and then I went into creating these deity kind of a model. And I sculpted it in Blender, which is a 3D sculpting software for those of you who don't know. And I kind of made some renders in Adobe Dimension and everything. And then I kind of found this code, which is kind of can figure out if you are in a particular location using GPS in your phone. So I also found another code piece, a library which will help you augment your 3D models in augmented reality. I combined these two and I geolocated 9 of my 3D models all around the world in different places. And these places included the Museum of Modern Art in New York, Louvre in Paris, Hagia Sophia, Istanbul, Jantar Mantar, Delhi, Todaiji Temple, Japan, National Arts Theatre, Nigeria. Anywhere and anywhere I love to visit, I visited, etc. And I also had a backstory to it. The interesting thing was I made this in such a way that the first person who actually visits this place and views this model in augmented reality and shares a video over social media will be able to collect the NFT of that 3D model. Now, I was very new into the NFT space and I never expected anyone to really collect it. But interesting thing was within 1 week of release of the project, all 9 models were collected. And this involved people talking to friends around the world, family around the world, and collecting them. The one in Delhi was collected by someone from Turkey. There was so many interesting things which happened. So you can see the one in front of Museum of Modern Art. This is in front of Louvre, Hagia Sophia, Mexico, Japan, Sydney, and this is our Jantar Mantar. Um, this is Nigeria, and I'm sure you know the Christ the Redeemer statue, which is a wonder of the world. Um, and yeah, and I mean, there was the videos also recorded, so you can see how people recorded these 3D models, and it's amazing to see one of your works in front of the wonder of the world while you really can't travel outside from your home. So yeah, so that's how this project went. And this project is still live. This project, if you actually, it's a permanent installation. If you actually visit these places and open this particular link, you can actually see these 3D models and use them, put them in augmented reality in those locations. I recently went to Jantar Mantar and actually tried out my own model there, and it was amazing to see that. So I can share the link for that right now. Since you're not in any of these locations, I think you're not on any of these locations. If you're not in any of these locations, it won't it will just show the pilgrimage logo, and you can augment put that logo in augmented reality and try it out. The only thing is that you will need an augmented reality supported phone for trying it out. So open this link in the phone, and if it supports augmented reality, you will see a button at the bottom right. Just click on it. Just look at any of the surfaces, and you can place it and try it out. And this project went on, and I kind of extended it to multiple things. There is a museum called the Museum of Crypto Art, and they have been collecting some of the most important pieces in NFT history, and I worked with them to geolocate those NFT artworks all around the world. There are more extensions of that also coming up. All right, I'll take a pause here. Any questions, any thoughts, just something.
I think we can continue.
All right.
Yeah, looks very interesting and very intriguing.
Thanks, Devish. All right. Next is not an interactive project, but this is something I exhibited at NeurIPS, and it kind of was very interesting in the sense that GPT-3, which I'm not sure if all of you know about it, but it's a machine learning model which can generate this very realistic text text generation model. Basically, if you ask it something like who I mean, what is the story behind this, or create a story for me, or create a joke for me, it will actually create something really interesting for you. And it will actually create stories and movies and all stories and jokes and all those things. You can have a conversation with this, and people have been extending it to creating AI based software like chatbots and many other conversation based tools. So what I did when GPT-3 released was I applied for the beta, and I luckily got access to their beta. And being a visual person myself, I wanted to see what GPT-3, the language model, sees. So I was trying to find out what a machine imagines in its mind. And how do we find out a machine which just generates text to visualize something? Luckily, GPT-3 was very good at creating SVG codes. SVG codes are basically, if you know about Illustrator, if you know, I'm sure you will be knowing it. SVG is essentially essentially, vector graphics can be scalable vector graphics. It can be, these vector images could be saved in the SVG format. And these are essentially lines of code. And I used GPT-3 to generate these lines of code. And the first image it created was this. And suddenly it just reminded me of a floppy disk. And I thought like the machine is having a nostalgic moment. Like it's just thinking of floppy disk. I don't know if all of you know about floppy disks also, but yeah, it's a technology from the past. I went on exploring what are you imagining? I just want to figure out what are you imagining. So I asked it, how do you draw a bicycle? You draw a bicycle with two circles connected by a line, etc., etc. And I kind of interpreted what it was saying as an answer into these figures. I was like, okay, this is looking good. And then prompts, and so then it went on to exploring more. I started using it to create animations. Now for this, I generated CSS and HTML code. So you can see move a div from here to here, move a div from here to here. Div is essentially a container in HTML. And this is particularly the most, this is the most interesting project of it, where I and my fiance, now my wife, collaborated on this artwork, where I was asking GPT-3 to describe a imaginary painting. What I want to know what it imagines, and my wife, who is also an artist, tried to depict it in her style. So you can see how it starts by saying the machine was talking to the human. The human said, "Let me be your eyes and hands, and you be my imagination. Let us paint a picture together. Tell me what to paint, and I will digitally paint it." The machine replied, "Okay, here goes." So till here is the prompt, what I'm asking the machine. What comes after is generated by GPT-3. So it says, start by painting a vibrant red, somewhat chaotic background. And this is what she painted. And then the machine says, then add light spots to it to show some brightness, and some dark spots to show some shadows. So some spots were added. And then after that, make the background grow darker until the sky is completely dark. The machine went totally dark at this point. I'm not sure why, but it was interesting to see. So splash of dark she added. And then suddenly, finally make it fade from black into light. In the light, add a blue sky, and then make the light get brighter and brighter. You can see how the machine is describing not just an image, but it's the process of how the image is created from darkness to light, and it has a relation to the whole concept of, whole mythology of creation. Then draw a ray of white light going from the light, white light going from the light, showing the beginning of a beautiful day. And it gets interesting here. Now the creation process has completed, at least for 7 days, hopefully. But after that comes the elements being added, add some birds in the sky and the sun in the light to give it life. And then draw a beautiful smiling girl standing in the light. She is smiling at me. You should understand it's saying she's smiling at me, at the machine. And then it says, oh, and add some flowers and trees, as if it just forgotten to add that. And then it made the most beautiful statement. The girl in the painting was looking at the machine. Also add a couple of butterflies to make it all complete. And then it said, the girl in the painting was looking at the machine with admiration. The machine had drawn the best picture for the girl in the world. The girl said, now that I am a painter, my life has meaning. Thanks to you, I have a purpose in life. Before, I had to live, but now I have a purpose. So it's kind of poetic how a machine could create some lines like that. Beyond that, how it collaborated with a creative to create something like that was interesting, and how it was relating to the creation was the most interesting part of it. And me being me, I just kept continuing creating works with GPT-3 and visuals. I kind of used GIFs to create a movie which GPT-3 generated. So this movie is called The Girl and the Door. And I actually created a Netflix-like system where, there are all these GPT-3 created movies, and you can select one of them and it plays. So, for example, it selects which one? The Prince and the Bride. So you can, I'm not sure if you can read the text at the bottom. So that is the text which is generated by the machine. And these are the GIFs which were searched and fetched based on it. And GIFs which were searched and fetched on based on it, and it plays. So you can see they end up fighting. They realize that they were wrong and they should give love a chance. The end. And then it goes on to another movie called Two Trees. Once upon a time, there were two trees. They were both huge and they both loved the sun. One tree was very tall and the other tree was very short. The short one was sad because it didn't get to see the sun. It complained to the tall one. And yeah, it goes on like that. But very, all these fun memes and everything comes up. So so that's another project which I did in 2020. I think let me see if there is something which we could all interact with. Okay.
Could we open to questions? I think for the last 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And we can continue this for another 5 minutes. And
no, I didn't. I wasn't looking at the time.
No.
Yeah, thank you for
stopping. It was quite interesting. It was quite interesting. So I think we could open to questions after, like maybe one more work we could see, and then maybe we could open to questions.
Sure. Okay. So this work, probably this is the work I would be ending with before questions. This work is called I. NFTs were considered to be this, what do you call it? The core principles of NFTs essentially were, immutability, permanence, decentralization, in the sense that whatever you put as an NFT is permanent. It doesn't change. It is you can't change it at all, and it's decentralized. It's across the blockchain. It's in different systems. I can talk about it later if you don't know about it. But what I did was kind of went against all these principles. I created an NFT which is not permanent, which can be changed to whatever I want, and which is from a centralized repository, basically GitHub. And what happens is when you collect, or when someone collects this NFT, you don't really know what image will show up. I would put up some image and that would be the art you would be collecting. And what I did was I was thinking of what is the interesting way to actually, see what could be another principle that it could break all the time. And one of the things which was being said was something called copy minting, where I create an artwork, I mint it, or I create an NFT with it, and somebody else, just takes the image and creates their own NFT with it and sells it. So this is called copy minting. Essentially, my artwork is ripped off. So that was one of the problems of NFTs, and people are trying to solve it. And that is why I thought I will actually copy mint an artwork. And which other artwork better than the Mona Lisa? So I made an NFT of the Mona Lisa. I wrote about it, and people were like, "What is happening?" You can see the OpenSea page where actually Mona Lisa is listed as an NFT. So this was another artwork which was largely a thought process, largely something conceptual rather than a visual paradigm. That's just about it from me. Let me stop sharing my screen. Oh wait, let me keep my screen. It might be required during the answers. I'll open up for questions.
So anybody, any questions? Put it on chat box. Okay. So I think I'll go with a few questions that I have got. So with all these learnings with AR, and where can someone learn and experiment with AR? It's like if someone wants to start and learn about it, where is it that someone can start at?
Yeah. So I know how it feels good when we see all these technology from a designer point of view, who's beginning into creating these technologies. And What I would say is approach it from a very designerly way itself. You have to think of AR as not just a technology, but it's a medium of creative expression, and you have a lot of visualization, you have a lot of thought process, you have a lot of process to actually create something there. AR is, or let's talk about AR specifically. Let's go into VR later, but AR specifically is augmenting virtual objects into your space, into around you. So how do you place an image in a composition or in a UX interface or in product design? How do you keep a 3D model in a particular location? How do you create the form of it, etc.? All these design decisions that comes into play also comes into AR. So that is where the beauty of it lies, where you're not creating just something and putting out there. You're creating something which is fitting with the kind of environment that you're putting it, and it's really contextual. And if it is supposed to be for a purpose, it's useful. In terms of the technology, to answer your question, if you're someone who wants to explore coding, I would definitely recommend you to start with not just for AR and not for AR, but to start learning with processing P5JS, which is an amazingly simple and amazingly beautifully created so that anyone who is a creative can jumpstart into coding. A lot of tutorials available. I would highly recommend you start it, and it's all open source. And it's such an amazing foundation, and it has done a lot in my life. Beyond processing, if you're specifically going into AR and VR, I would recommend trying out Unity engine. I'm sure you've heard of Unity 3D. It's kind of
Yes.
becoming popular right now. So try out Unity 3D. It's a little more complicated. It's not as simple as you see, but there are, again, if you have the will to learn it, you can do it. There are a lot of things like that. I have a few tools which can be not necessarily coding based, which I can share with you later on also, links. But that can help you create based on visually creating. You won't be exactly programming something or creating. You will be more visually interactively creating, and I can share the links for that later also. So yeah, I would say just don't wait
Wonderful.
for
That is
something
amazing.
to happen. Just start with it and start creating. And if you need any help along the way, definitely ask.
Yes. So there's a lot of coding which goes behind, right? With all the AR and VR, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the platform you use. If you're using something like Unity, there's a lot of code which you will need to create something, and that gives you more finer controls. But there are tools with which you can create interactively and visually, which won't give you that finer controls, but you'll be able to prototype, you'll be able to create environments, you'll be able to keep things around you in your environment and try out. You can have filters on your face, those kind of things. And yeah, it's essentially jumpstart into the world. But I think one thing which probably is I would really recommend is to, since we are in the
Mm-hmm.
world of social media, to follow some of these channels. It's you'll keep getting feeds of these things, and it's essential to just refresh your brain with all these knowledge. Yeah.
Definitely. So that's one. So another question, does anybody else have any other questions? You can maybe unmute and maybe get to those or in that way. Anybody? So I next
I had a
question is
question.
around,
I think
yeah,
this is
sure. Go on.
What does a product innovator do at Adobe?
okay. So product innovator role is something which was kind of created specifically for my my candidature. That's not a common role in Adobe. In Adobe, it's more on the lines of UX designer or UX researcher, etc. I was largely a person who came from design background, went into product management, and I found that I wanted a place between those two, uh, especially pushing something in in the area of innovation. So since I've been working with technology like artificial intelligence, and I've previously worked with Photoshop, was I was rehired at Adobe as a product innovator for specifically for neural filters, which is AI-based filters for Photoshop. And my role entails creating or imagining some of the future applications or some of the future technologies that could be used in neural filters and other possible areas. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
So,
Yes.
normally, like most of the people, like we use AR mostly through the phones, but like, I mean, do you think that in the next, like, I don't know, 4 5 years or 10 years or maybe later, we would move on to proper smart goggles or something, or like, would this be the end of it, or like, would there be some other form of AR?
Okay, a really good question and relevant to the times now. The answer is basically, at least from my point of view, what I've seen is that there is a lot of interest towards augmented reality as a technology, not just because of the wow factor in it, but there are a lot of applications coming towards augmented reality, which is real life applications. For example, in enterprise or maybe in manufacturing, or let's talk about, if you want to assemble a machine, you could have your lead or your manager remotely assisting you to assemble it through augmented reality. So there are these, and especially in medical applications, this is becoming really popular. So what I'm trying to say is that this, as a technology and as an application, is becoming very popular. I know that Apple has very much interest in it, has been investing in it, and I'm sure should be there should be a headset coming out soon from Apple. I don't know if it is this year or next year. So you know how, I mean, as far as the market previously has done, if Apple releases something like that, there's a high chance it's a widely adopted technology, and it is at least from my point of view, it is a serious helper if we reach the point where we don't have to have any devices like laptops or phones or all of this. You just have to carry one goggle. It's a lifesaver for me. I can just have a visual, augmented keyboard, and I can just type on it, or I can draw on the air or whatever, and don't have to mess with all these screens. I can use it anywhere in the world. So I definitely would prefer that myself, and I can always switch off just by removing it. That's more important.
Reminds me of
So
Iron
yeah,
Man. Sorry to cut you there.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
completely,
please.
there's a visualization going on in my head.
So these imagined or these futuristic visuals which have been played out through movies is a huge driver towards innovations. If you talk to some of these AR innovators, a lot of them talks about Minority Report. If you've seen the movie, how Tom Cruise plays with gestures and everything. So that was a huge driver for gestures. What I'm saying is these movies are also a great driver. So yes,
How close are we?
definitely.
How close are we to these sci-fi movies coming into reality, you think? Because you're working very
Because
closely with this technology.
the more closer you get to a movie, then another new movie comes, which is way beyond. So, I mean, there are movies which are way into the future, predicting. A lot of it comes true, a lot of it doesn't come true. But what I would say is, at least a lot of these technologies, I know AI for one thing is growing really fast in different applications, different areas. If you look at visual design itself, you've seen some of the works which I did. This was 1 year back. Right now, if you see, there are amazing creations. There are AI models which can create faces and manipulate them. For better or worse, those things could be used on videos. And there are language models which are so powerful that you can't even know if it is written by a human. Again, there are both sides to it, to be debatable. But I think the excitement of reaching that point of the technology being the driver of these, and you reach this point where there's this wow point that always keeps going. When you reach a point, there is another milestone to reach, and that's kind of a human nature also, or maybe the nature of the universe. It's always another thing. The point is, I could go a little more. I mean, I would. I'm a person who just goes into a lot of philosophical aspect of it, so I'll just stop it here. I'll probably open up for more questions.
Anybody else? Any other questions? We'd be wrapping up in another 3 to 5 minutes. So you guys can go on with any other questions. You guys can shoot it to Fabin, sir. He would be answering them. Okay. So
one thing they said was like for the NFTs. So like recently it was. I'm not entirely sure about the accuracy of the statement either, but it's like NFTs and the blockchain, like they all require a lot of energy to create, and so like it won't be as like ethical. I mean, because of the whole like global warming and yeah. So like based on that, do you have any input for us?
Yeah. So to answer that question, I need to give a shot on the the underlying technology. So there are a couple of blockchains out there which run in different ways of running the blockchain essentially. So one of them is called proof of work. I'm not going to the details of it. One of them is called proof of work, and the another one is called proof of stake. NFTs became really popular in the Ethereum blockchain, and people have been creating works there mostly, and a lot of influx has been happening in that particular blockchain. The problem with Ethereum blockchain is that it is a proof of work platform, and as you said, it consumes a lot of energy. It definitely consumes a lot of energy. While there are parallel platforms like Tezos or recently Solana, and there are a couple of other blockchains which uh, essentially uses proof of stake and other models, which doesn't necessarily have that much impact on the environment. I wouldn't say. I mean, it has very less impact on the environment. So the problem is that the popular one is Ethereum, and the unpopular ones are consuming lesser energy. But on the flip side, people are talking about how, if you think about Ethereum NFTs as such, it consumes only a very small portion of what we think a blockchain should consume. If you think about how much it takes to run a company like Twitter or Facebook and all those things, they also consume energy and all. What I'm saying is there is debates on both sides. At least for Ethereum specifically, by the end of this year, as what is planned, they are planning to move, or they've already started the movement from I think last year to move into ETH 2.0, which is a proof of stake model, and the whole idea is to move into a very less energy consuming blockchain. So your question was it's very relevant, and it's very important to consider how much you consume it. One way is to look at platforms which have less energy consumption and go with it. There are quite a number of blockchains which are becoming famous that way, or wait till ETH 2.0 comes in, or you can always offset your this is what some people do. They offset their consumption. Essentially what they do is whatever amount of consumptions they made, they will be offsetting the same amount of things to paying for energy friendly and energy based organization who are looking towards nature preservation and climate change and more. So these are a couple of thoughts out there. Yeah, I think this is a huge debate. There are a lot of opinions which is coming by it. To summarize, I would say it's just, if you are in Ethereum, it's going to be by the end of this year or next year. There are other blockchains if you want to try out those also. Hope that answers your questions down.
Yeah, for now, yes, sir.
Okay.
I think I have one last question, and then I'll wrap it up for the evening. So looking at the use and applications of AR, it has been especially with the pandemic, I think this growth has been very rapid and very fast. And in the last 2 years, we have been hearing these words more than any other time. I think 2 years back, I don't know about others, but I had not heard these words AR and VR a lot of it. So about the space, is it? What do you think? Like this is going to be the pace at what it's going to grow, or it's going to be faster? Looking at maybe the pandemic ending soon.
AR, VR is, I mean, at least virtual worlds are becoming common right now because of, especially the pandemic, remote work, and a lot of collaboration happening remotely. Virtual spaces, I love some of them. I hate some of them because of the motion sickness that it gives me, but it really is going to be a lot more prevalent. But if you're looking at, I'm assuming probably that would be some direction which you're looking at, is to get into any of these technologies. I would always tell you not to look at a specific technology and focus your work there. Think of technology as a bracket altogether. This wide area and this wide canvas, and then look at it. Yeah.
It was a generic question towards as a technological, as a segment of technology,
Yeah.
how it's growing. Like you said, AI has been growing very
Yeah.
rapidly recently. In
Yes,
that way.
yes. I would definitely say it will be there will be a huge growth in AR and VR. Definitely, it's going to happen. I don't know if it will be this year or next year, but yeah, it's going to be there.
I see. So that was it from us. So thanks a lot, Fabin, for all these very beautiful work of yours, and a lot of insights which intrigued a lot of us to maybe explore it and learn more about it, and a lot of insights and a lot of things to learn about. Maybe a few more sessions or something. And thanks a lot to Team ADI for organizing this event. This was very beautiful. It would be great if all of us could switch on our cameras for a moment, and maybe we could have a screenshot for this.
So, Fabin, I would like to thank you on behalf of ADI and team ADI Hyderabad. Thank you for taking out time and sharing your work. It was very, very, very interesting, even for me, who's a non-designer. Some of our team members are present here, but unfortunately, they can't switch on their videos. But thank you so much. So we'll see you next time. Thank you, Devesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd just like to add here. Hi, Fabin, I'm Shipra, the president of ADI Hyderabad. I am not keeping too well, so I'm pretty drained. I won't like to switch on the video, but I've been following the entire session. And thank you so much for taking time and helping our young students and everybody around, enriching them with all your work and being available today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And it was amazing to share some of these works and also, to interact with all these folks. Thank you. Thank you, Devesh. Thank you, Shipra. Thank you, Team ADI.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.